welcome to a very special conversation. I'm called Sarah and I'm the head of marketing for Vichy, so thank you all for coming this evening. I'm going to start by introducing you to our fantastic panel who will be hosting and having a very candid and honest conversation this evening. So starting with our resident doctor and GP, Dr. Shazadi Harper, broadcaster and presenter Lisa Snowden, former Olympian and life coach Michelle Griffin, and consultant dermatologist Dr. Mary Summerlad. So thank you all ladies for being here this evening. We know that every year 4 million women in the UK and Ireland are going through perimenopause and menopause, and although the conversation has come a long way, conversations like this evening are still very much needed to ensure we can continue to move beyond the stigma. For Vichy Laboratories, it's actually really exciting that we can finally have this conversation in the UK, because we have over 20 years of scientific research specifically into the hormone changes and impact on the skin at this live stage. The products that you will receive today, which we can't wait to hear what you think of them, and so please do share, are our reformulated perimenopause day and night cream, which have been developed specifically for the perimenopause and menopause time in our lives. And there's also a sneak peek around the corner of a really exciting serum, the first ever perimenopause serum in skincare, that will launch from February next year. So again, please kind of go around, have a look, let us know what you think. The stories that we've had internally at L'Oreal, our kind of mother brand, and also within the consumer research we've done for Vichy have been so powerful, and that's why we believe that storytelling is just so important. And that's why we wanted to have a panel and a conversation to continue that. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to your host, Dr. Harper.
Hi, thank you. I'm really pleased to be here for this, and a warm welcome to you all. Just to recap, I am Dr. Shazadi Harper, and I've been a doctor for 25 years, but now my day-to-day practice is all about perimenopausal and menopausal women in my clinic. I'm very much about supporting women and for women to take a proactive approach to managing this part in their lives. And I've recently also written a book called the Perimenopause Solution, and I've been working with Vichy for over a year to raise awareness around perimenopause, the menopause, open the conversation, and sort of break down the taboo and stigma. And today we're really going to talk about the A to Z of perimenopause and menopause with my lovely panel here, and they're all going to sort of introduce themselves, and we're going to talk about and have an open conversation. So Lisa, off to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Is my microphone louder than yours? We're going to sing. We're about to do our first song of the night, so we need to make sure the technical side is perfect. Anyway, good evening everyone. I'm Lisa Snowden. I have had quite a varied career. I started modelling when I was 19. That's almost 32 years ago. And then I sort of moved into TV and radio, and I'm massively passionate about the menopause and women's health, and I've done a series on my Instagram, a self-care series. I launched a podcast this year as well called Get Lifted, where I talk about the menopause and mental health and different aspects of self-care, because I think it's massively important. And I'm a huge fan of Dr. Shazadi Harper. And yeah, I'm excited to be here to talk tonight very openly and honestly, and hopefully we'll have a good old giggle as well. Absolutely. And dispel all the myths surrounding the menopause.
Fantastic.
Hi guys, read this.
You do, Michelle.
I'm fine. Always one rebel, isn't there?
Yeah.
So anyway, my name is Michelle Griffin. I'm an Olympian, a life coach, a mentor, and actually I've got 3 beautiful children that I'm really blessed to have. And I was 50 in October. I'm still carrying on the celebration, so just let me know. There's no stopping. And I got involved with the Meno charity, which is headed up by Dr. Louise Newson and Davina McCall. And we'll get into why I got involved in that later on. But my mission and my vision, apart from being a personal trainer and all about well-being and health and everything else, really is to empower women and girls, to find their voice and to start the visibility. We want them to be visible at all ages, so from grassroots right through. And like my mum said to me this morning, Michelle, go out there and tell them the truth. And Actually, I'm going to be sharing the truth with you guys. Bells whistling. So thank you guys, thank you Vichy, and yeah, let's have a great, open, authentic meeting.
Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Mary Summerlad. I'm a consultant dermatologist and by default a skincare junkie. I love working with Vichy, and one of the reasons why is because they are completely aware that women come not just in all different shapes, sizes and colours, but ages. And they're one of the very few brands that really speak to women going through perimenopause and the menopause. And I think from my day-to-day practice, seeing patients, but also speaking to friends and family, the menopause has been often a subject that medical professionals, as well as anyone really allied with skincare and beauty, tend to shy away from. And I think actually, given that I think just over half the population are female, and if we're lucky enough we'll live to get to being perimenopausal and menopausal, it's really important that we're able to understand the changes happening to our skin, why they're happening, and how we can tackle them, so that we're living with skin that we're happy with, that we're comfortable with, and that we also understand it's part of a new kind of chapter in life and not something to be ignored. So I'm hoping tonight we'll be able to share our experiences, but also really have a really positive experience of the menopause, and it not to be something for us to be shying away for or ashamed of.
Exactly, Mary. I mean, one of the things, Lisa and Michelle, you know, the narrative on perimenopause and menopause has been sort of negative in the past. But, you know, you are really quite positive about it, empowering about it, you know, really want to educate women and get the word out there. What made you want to do that, considering you're both, you know, in the public eye?
You go first, Lisa.
Well, I think for me, menopause fascinates me, and I've just been trying to learn so much the last couple of years, because when I first started my perimenopause journey, which I didn't know was happening to me, that was when I was about 42, so almost 8 years ago. And you know, I had no idea the different symptoms that you can struggle with and how varied they are and how individual everybody's journey is. And for me, my first symptom looking back now was depression, anxiety, over-emotional. I couldn't process stress. Sometimes I just couldn't function properly. And so that was the sort of the warning sign. But I didn't know back then, all those years ago, that that was perimenopause, all my hormones.
Because most of the time we're just told hot flushes,
Yeah.
night sweats, you know, moody women or growing a moustache, you know, that
And
kind of thing.
also much older women. I thought that happens to much, much older women. I didn't think that it was something in my early 40s that I had to even consider. So yeah, it was a big shock to me. So that's why I'm trying to learn as much as I possibly can, so that I can empower my sisters. I've got 2 younger sisters, my friends, my family, you know, all of the different women that I encounter, and just spread the word. And so it's not a taboo subject. You know, it's not a dirty word, and it's something that we all are prepared for as well, because it's a really scary, lonely place to be.
Well, it doesn't have to be lonely though.
It
now,
doesn't
now
have
that
to
we're
be
talking
now.
about it.
No, but back when I was younger and I just didn't know what was happening to me and I didn't recognise myself, and it sort of went from the depression and the anxiety, and I was prescribed antidepressants from the doctor, which was exactly the opposite of what I needed. And then my period started to my cycle went all over the place. I mean, it was like really short cycles, really heavy bleeding, you know, almost hemorrhaging.
But I think that menopause denial, there's so many women out there who think it is much older women. I think because the narrative has been this sort of grey-haired woman, you know, walking along the beach, wearing slacks, waterfall cardigans. So you look in the mirror and you think that can't possibly be me. You know,
Women in North Devon.
Yeah.
That's where I've come from, guys. Sorry. I'm changing the narrative. Don't worry about it.
What about you, Michelle?
Yeah, the reason why, you know, I joined the Meno charity, you know, quite simply, when Dr. Louise Newson asked me, because of Lorraine Candy, to join the Meno charity, I said, you know what, I've come from the culture, there is a difference here, whether we like it or not. Coming from a Caribbean background, my mother's Jamaican, where we were just always told, just get on with it. Yeah, I have to change that, get on with it. Because I've got 2 daughters, and I don't want to be using that same message, just get on with it. Yeah, so that's why I joined the Meno charity, to reach out to ethnic minorities, black women, black Caribbean, African women, so they can see, actually, I struggle sometimes, I'm going to be open about it, but I'm going to change the narrative. That's why I joined the Meno charity, and actually, I was 50, like I said to you guys, I'm still getting a 28-day cycle. They are bloody heavy now, Dolly.
Oh, they're horrible.
Do you know what I mean? And the other day, I got out of the car in August, and my husband said, I said, what, Matt? I said, what do you want? All irritated. Yeah. I'm like, what is it? Just speak. And he said to me, you're bled through. I went, and? But you know, again, it's bloody, that's life, isn't it? What can I do about it?
We need to talk about it.
And I said to him, what can I do? I said, what can I do? He said, but you're going in somewhere. I said, so what? I can go and change. But it's all of that about almost normalising it. And the more we can speak about it and not feel embarrassed by it. Now, years ago, I've got to be honest with you, 5 years ago, I'd be embarrassed. I'd walk in there and be like, oh God, I need a towel. Now I'm just like, I've just bled through. Can I go to the toilet, please? And all things that are just simple conversations. And I'm going to say, and I'm owning it, I am feeling better now than I did when I was 25.
Yeah.
At 25, I had a slamming athletic body, all the six-pack you can imagine. I was this insecure bitch. And that's the truth. I was insecure. Oh, why is my boyfriend looking at that other woman? Now I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Put away, whatever.
It's all yours.
It's all yours. Have it. You can have it for 13 days in a month. So actually, it's about owning it. Acceptance is the thing I say. As a life coach, I say to people all the time, acceptance of who you are and where you're going.
Yeah.
But you can only do it through support.
So Michelle, you know, if your mother's saying to you, just get on with it, you know, the Caribbean culture is just get on with it.
Yeah.
So where did you go? Where did you find the support? Where did you find the resources?
I said, Mommy, I'm going to just get on with it. I'm going to go and find support so I can just get on with it. And that's about, again, reaching out. And I spoke to you earlier on, and I said, showing that vulnerability is strength rather than a weakness, is essential for all of us in here. Going out and researching it, I only thought it was hot flushes. And the amount of women, and black women that say, I'm not taking anything, I don't want to take anything. Why do you not want to be a martyr? What are you doing? No, I want to do it natural. All right, happy you. I don't want to do it natural. I'll do it whatever way is going to make me thrive and survive in this world.
Well, the thing is, it is natural.
I see
but
it's natural.
Yeah.
But you're replacing, aren't you?
Yeah.
But also, you know, we were talking about this, midlife is not end of life, whereas 100 years ago, you know, midlife was old age and we'd be dead by the time we were 60.
Absolutely.
You know, we've got a whole lot of living to do.
Hell of a lot.
Yeah.
And you can start to feel fantastic again. Once you've worked out what's going on, how you adjust your lifestyle, if you choose to take HRT, you know, you can get everything back, you know. Maybe not a 20-year-old body with a six-pack.
No, sorry, I'm owning that 32F sagging now, babe. I'm alright, I'm
But
okay.
it's about acceptance, like you said, you know, we can't expect to look the same way we did 20
should
years
you?
ago. It's like, you know, and that's not part of, you know, what we're talking about today, but you know, metabolism's changed.
Absolutely.
But once you get a handle and you know what's going on, you can make adjustments and you can feel fabulous. You can own your 50s, 60s.
But what about with you, Lisa, you know, being in the public eye, you know, being on TV, being a presenter, being, you know, a model, you know, how did you find, you know, how did you manage your perimenopause with all of that going on?
There were days when I actually didn't want to go to work. I had this job where I had to get up on stage 4 times a year at the Griffin house, which is a huge venue, like thousands of people, and it's all my peers. And for 6 months, for like months before I had to do it, I'd literally lose sleep. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and like, have this anxiety, because also the brain fog that comes with the menopause. And so then you all of a sudden start to doubt your ability to be able to talk to people, remember names, and just to do a good job. And whether you're on telly like I was, or standing up in the middle of it, whether you're going to a presentation at work, whatever it is, in whatever work capacity you have, you just start to have the anxiety, the worry, and then the sweats come on.
Yeah.
And then you're just mortified because you're standing there having the mother of all hot sweats, and you're like, oh my god, you just feel like you've been set on fire, don't you? And your top lip's sweaty, and then you're just embarrassed, and then you can't function. So yeah, there were days where I just felt absolutely miserable, and then the weight gain, and then the criticism from the weight gain, and people being very mean on social media, and you know, that weight gain just creeps out of nowhere as well.
Well, that's why it's really important to talk about it, you know, so that we can share our experiences, you know, and symptoms like brain fog, because, you know, I think sometimes women think they're going crazy or they're getting dementia. You know, and I often see women in clinic who come in and think maybe they've got early Alzheimer's. So I think some of those symptoms which we aren't so aware about, insomnia, you know, depression, flatness of mood, anxiety, you know, those aren't really talked about. So it's really good that we're getting this conversation out there. Dr. Summerlad, you know, one of the things I also see in clinic is women coming in, you know, with skin and hair changes. You know, I was saying earlier, sometimes women put up with hot flushes, you know, they put up with that anxiety, insomnia, but when, you know, their hair starts thinning or they suddenly feel that their skin's changed and they've almost like sort of gone old overnight, you know, tell us a bit more what's going on sort of physiologically and biologically in our skin.
So the big thing with menopause is we think of it as kind of like a very final moment of, you know, today was the marks 12 months since my last period, and I have now transitioned into being someone who is post-menopause, and I've had my menopause. But actually the changes to our skin, our hair, and when I say skin, I also mean connective tissue, so like our muscles underneath, they start changing years earlier from when you're perimenopausal. And you can actually be perimenopausal with regular periods, no changes to your cycles. So you may not be aware that you are in this kind of perimenopausal state. It's very difficult for your GP to do a blood test to check your hormone levels. They need to do it on the right day, they need to have the right indication. And most of us just aren't even actually aware that from actually, on average, at around about 42, but you may be even in your late 30s or mid 30s, depending on when you start becoming perimenopausal. The big changes really are related to the classic female hormones, and the number one is estrogen, but also progesterone is involved. As we go through perimenopause towards that menopausal state, these hormones are falling, and they're falling gradually, but as they fall, they actually have quite a significant impact on our skin and hair. So with hair, it's very normal to notice a thinning in the hair or a reduction in volume. How does that look? It may look like your central parting is wider, or your ponytail is less thick, or sadly people just comment, oh, your hair looks a lot, you know, why does your hair look different? Skin, we think a lot about, as we've all mentioned, you know, the hot flushes and sweating, but actually dryness is a really big, huge, important part of when we start heading into the perimenopausal years. With the dryness, there's also what's happening with our skin barrier is it's becoming a little bit compromised. So normally our skin is really tightly knitted together. And actually, not even if you're perimenopausal, from about 35 onwards, just as part of normal aging, that barrier starts losing some of its integrity. And that gives you skin that's prone to a bit of dryness, but also sensitivity. So it's really very common that I'll see women aged early 40s who have a new diagnosis of rosacea, but they don't give me the rosacea symptoms. They describe dry skin that's very sensitive, and that's probably more perimenopausal skin than actual rosacea. So sometimes they've actually been on medication, oral medication or treatments for rosacea because they're having sensitive dry skin, but actually we should have been talking more about how to restore and soothe and nourish the skin barrier as part of normal aging process, which is the perimenopause. With that reduction in estrogen, we also notice a reduction in our collagen. And collagen is really important for scaffolding.
Yeah, that's
sagging. So we might start seeing the skin less firm. You might notice fine lines start getting a bit deeper. The dynamic lines might stop being dynamic, so they might stop moving and actually start being more set. People also find, interestingly, that they notice more of kind of pigmentation. So maybe they've gone through their 20s and 30s and really not noticed any problems with freckles or even with melasma.
Acne.
Even with acne, all sorts of things can start appearing, and it's important to recognise why they're happening, because sometimes you may end up seeing lots of different, not just doctors, family doctors and dermatologists, but you might be seeing estheticians, beauticians, facialists, but actually just understanding that this is part of the menopause and what treatments and skincare routines you can follow that can support you. Sometimes that's all people want to know.
And the other things are things like, you know, night sweats and hot flushes don't help. When you don't sleep, you don't get your beauty sleep. And your skin can look a little bit lackluster, a bit dull.
Yeah.
What about you, Lisa? Have you changed your skincare?
Well, my skin just loves moisture now. It can't get enough. It just strips it up. And I love the plumping day cream. The Vaginal range is amazing. And the fact that there's 20 years of research is amazing. Can't wait to try this in, by the way. Like, ending up in my room tonight. But yeah, no, just lots and lots of self-care. So like making sure you do your beauty routine morning and night. Don't skip on that. When you do have the night sweats, you do wake up more dry, and the skin just is crying out for like being soothed and hydration and moisture. Yeah. Lots of massage as well. You can do a lot yourself.
Facial massage.
Facial massage. Make sure you cleanse and you clean your face every night and you really hydrate it.
What about you, Michelle? Have you changed things up?
To be very honest with you, over the last 2 years, I've started to really think about me a lot more. My little boy's 8 now, and my daughters are 18 and 14. So I've literally changed things in the house. And I've done that by saying, right, no, I'm going to go and get my facial every 6 weeks. I'm going to go make sure I get the former Pilates lady in every 10 days. So I've started to look after myself, the whole self-care. Self-care for me, and this is slightly going on, so please bear with me.
Don't worry, this week is self-care week.
Yeah.
So you
Oh,
go
okay,
for it.
okay.
It's self-care week.
Self-care for me was going and buying clothes online, going into the shops. That's what I thought was self-care. I'm still doing that, but in addition to that, I'm really being honest with myself here. Self-care is investing in me. So I go to my therapist whenever I feel to. I have a life coach. Yes, I am one, but I also need somebody else to, sound off to as well, and to make sure I'm on track. So I'm looking after myself in its entirety, and that's been the last 2 years. Just before COVID, I made that decision that I'm going to take care of me, because I always say it: you can't give from an empty cup.
And the thing is, as women, we are givers, we're natural givers, and I think, we always put other people first, and even during COVID, I've heard so many women talk about looking after, supporting their partners, their children, homeschooling, and forgetting about themselves, and this really is the time, I go, #me first. #me first.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's a good one, we
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, so, and this can be an empowering, positive time as well. Yeah.
Absolutely, because then you can be the best version of you, and you can
Absolutely.
give, and But I think as women, like you said, we do just put everybody else first, and we just end up going, no, it's fine, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, and then you're knackered. Add the menopause into the mix, or perimenopause, and you've just literally got nothing left to give. And then you're at your wit's end, and then you're just literally sobbing into the biggest bottle of wine. It's like, just give me a straw, like a chocolate, and then that doesn't help anyway. That does not help, but that's
I
sometimes
think there is negativity around. The words that we use often can be negative and give the sort of negative vibes around perimenopause and menopause. And yet it can be a real positive time, a real empowering time, a real sisterhood going on here. I feel very much, for many women, they find their voice, it's a crossroads, a new beginning. How about yourselves?
Well, for me, I think turning 50 last month was a big life-changing moment. It makes you sit down and reflect, and I think I'm probably more on that journey because I do coach a lot of women about reflecting, and sometimes we miss that the process. The process is so crucial for us, and stopping, reflecting, pausing, seeing how far you've travelled, and rewarding yourselves. And I don't mean just going about your shoes. So excuse me when I say that. I don't mean it tongue in cheek. I do mean rewarding yourself and saying, do you know what, I've done really well. And you spoke about the language there. Often I say to my clients, reframe your language. How you treat yourself, how you speak about yourself, and the whole perimenopause, menopause, it's almost like got a doomy, gloomy connotation to it already. You're old, you're washed up, grey fanny hairs, do you know? No, it's true, isn't it? Not sexy, not showing your best self. We have to change that. And it is down to us in this room, and men as well. We need men as our allies. My husband's my biggest ally. We do need them to turn around and support what we're doing, but they're only going to do that if we show that vulnerability, which is what I said earlier on, and own our process. We are lucky if we can get to that perimenopause, menopausal age. Some women don't make it, guys.
Exactly, and I think, but we are talking about it more. It is sort of becoming a more open topic. Why do you think that is? I know there's been sort of lots on social media. We've had recently Carolyn Harris doing the bill for HRT. But why do you think we've got here? What's been pushing this?
It's about bloody time.
Yeah.
And we make them a bigger workforce. There's 50 people, bloody brilliant, ladies.
such great positions in their jobs, and you know we've all worked so hard, and then there are moments when we just want to give it all up because we just can't cope, and it's just not acceptable. You know, there needs to be more education. We do need to get the men in our lives, in our world, to know more about it so they can support us. You know, it's just, we don't get taught this at school. We barely get taught about periods. We barely get taught about pregnancy. Menopause, I mean, what the hell is that? Perimenopause. It wasn't even like a word. You try and type perimenopause into your phone.
It comes up wrong.
Doesn't understand. It's like, what are you doing? Menopause? What? So yeah, it's just about time, and it's so exciting. It's the movement is happening, the conversation is getting bigger.
But it's really good, you know, people in the public eye are talking about it more. I think women have reached that age, they are talking about it more. And like you said, you know, and workplaces are recognising that women are a talent, and they, you know, and we don't want to be losing that talent in the workplace. But you know, I think we've still got a lot of work to do in certain sort of bits of community and you know, society. It does feel at the moment maybe that it's just reaching certain parts of society. So, Michelle, you know, how do you think you know, we should be, or what we should be doing more of?
Well, like I said, when I joined the Meno charity was to be the voice, and I say the face, I don't mean that, you know, conceited way, but so that other black women could see and think, actually, I do feel a little bit like that. Because really, you've been spoken about, and we've got to own this again. By white middle class women are talking about this. I need to be able to go to Harlesden and speak to the black women that can't access these services. That's the real deal. I need to also be able to say a disability. I used to do a lot of work with Tanya Gray-Thompson, and one of the first things she said to me was, Michelle, how was your journey? I said, oh, really easy. She said, book your ticket? I said, really easy. She said, do you know how hard it is for me to book a ticket for a train? How hard it is for me to get on a train? And that's when you stop and talk about visibility, access, disability. Yeah, they didn't see Tanya Gray-Thompson. For me, I just walk on the train, bounce on the train. Don't think about running for a train. For her, it's an all-night long thinking process. And that's the same with why I wanted to be that face, and I don't mean the face, but access. I want to access those that can't afford to go and buy HRT or from the doctors, from your private, and I'm no disrespect to none of you guys, because I'll be buying mine from you, don't worry. But those that can't have that, that's why what Caroline Harris did last week was epic, because it's inclusivity that we need.
I mean, it needs to filter through all sections of society, you know, to black women, brown women, all people, you know, disabilities. And I think that is one of the things that, you know, we need to get more of out there, you know, more faces, more people talking about it. And yes, you know, at this moment it does seem a little bit maybe elitist, but I think it is growing. And I think also to get information out there, I mean, you mentioned HRT. I think there's so much misinformation out there that women are, you know, not going to their doctors about it. That's what infuriates me, you know, in some ways, not having the information. And, you know, women should be allowed to make an informed decision.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. When I see women who are menopausal with a lot of skin and hair symptoms, I'll ask, are you taking, you know, what HRT are you on? And the vast majority are on none.
Yeah.
And I will say this will help your skin and your hair and actually a lot of your other symptoms. And people remember a lot of the kind of, like you're saying, misinformation.
It's always breast cancer.
And I completely understand the deep concern around that. Nobody ever wants to do something that will shorten their lives if they can avoid it. But I think raising the awareness of HRT, the different options available, that this is a conversation that you are entitled to have with your GP and access if you want to, and raise your concerns with your GP and not with something you've read in a magazine or hearsay, and then make that informed decision, because it has huge benefits, and you can weigh up the risks and the benefits as long as you've got the information that you can process and digest and understand from a source that you trust.
And I think, you know, we talk about it being a natural process in a woman's life, which it is, you know, which every woman will go through, irrespective of having children, no children. But it doesn't have to be painful. You know, I remember when I had my daughter, I thought, you know, birth mother, going to go through it naturally. You know, you know, I'm going to do all right. As soon as the pain kicked in, I was like, give me the energy, give it to me. And I'm just thinking, you know, things are out there to help, to benefit, and also I think we need to understand, weigh up the pros versus the cons for each woman, and understand the benefits it can also offer in the long run, I think. And I think particularly in, you know, sort of ethnic minorities and black communities who maybe are a bit more stoical or just feel that, you know, that's it. But actually it can make the journey much harder, much easier, sorry. And also talk about some of the topics like vaginal dryness, you know, loss of libido, not feeling sexy. And these are things that don't have to go away.
Yeah, when I talk about libido, I joked earlier on when I said that I fancy my husband for 17 days of the month, and I'm like all over him. He's like, "What's up with her?" And then 13 days of the month, I'm like, "Don't touch me! I'm going to bed. I'm too tired." And that's the hormonal dip, you know. And that Matt couldn't understand. I was saying to her earlier on. He said that my husband would be like, "What's wrong with her? Why is there such this transition?" So the reason why I originally came out, I did an article for a newspaper about it, about buying my husband a book, because he was like, "What do you mean you don't want sex?" I'm like, "Matt, you've got to listen, go and educate yourself, because I'm tired." But yet again, he understands, and the more he's now talking to his friends, recognize they're not on their own. We also have to recognise that this can have such big ramifications on our marriages, our relationships, not just with men. Some of the females I'm around, I'm like, she needs a bit of HRT. She's actually rational as hell. And I recognise, I'm like, do you know what, babe?
Yeah.
You know what she's acting like that? She needs a little HRT. But tongue in cheek, because women are struggling.
Yeah.
But it's hard to sometimes say to them as well, because they are feeling irritable, they are feeling prickly.
Got to pick your moments.
You do, exactly, you know, and I think it's really important to know that you have to pick those moments.
You've got to pick your moments, and you have to understand that one size doesn't fit all.
Absolutely.
And I think that's probably one of the strong messages out there. You want to have your options on the table and be able to choose. Where I feel we sometimes struggle and feel paralysed is because our options aren't laid out on the table. So we just think, oh, I've got to suffer in silence.
And there are lots of options, you know, in the sense that we also need to take stock of our lives at this point. You know, think about our diet, our exercise. You know, how much are we drinking through that straw?
Why did you
No,
Have you brought me here today, all of you? Is this an intervention? Very extreme.
But it's about all of those things.
No, it's true, sorry.
No.
Deflect.
I'm hot. Say all of those things that the doctor say, you know, you need to take stock at this point in time. And yes, and have the option of HRT if it's yours.
Yeah, but the responsibility is massive. It's like we can really, you know, it's a whole lifestyle change. Yes, you can decide to take HRT. It's not a magic bullet. Like it's not just gonna be like the weight's gonna drop off and you're gonna feel fantastic and you want to jump on your husband again. That still doesn't quite happen to me.
Come see me.
I need to up my testosterone. But
Are you on it, Lisa?
Yeah.
How much do you take?
Tiny little squirt. So I don't use that little thing because that's just.
Maybe you need a little bit, maybe a sex toy.
No, I don't want a sex toy. I want the real thing.
No, a bit of practice beforehand. It's not a real thing.
I want
I've had
some
loads of
lubricant.
practice in my life. No, good lubricant and then maybe a bit more testosterone.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'll put it on my Christmas list.
That's amazing. That's top of the list. But it is lifestyle changes, so it is alcohol, it is exercise. Because when the weight gain starts to come on, you know, we do need to like just up it a bit. You know, like we were talking about weight training. It's like, you know, the muscle.
It really affects our mental
tone.
health as well.
Oh,
All of these
everything.
things, you know, weight gain, mood,
Yeah.
not
How do it
sleeping.
makes you feel though? You know, you're going through all of this, and I have to add into the mix of this, having my aging mother as well, plus having young kids. I was just like perimenopausal. My mum, just losing my dad and my stepdad, having my mum that's very fragile and vulnerable, then having my 3 children, and then me, and then my husband that wants sex. You know, putting all that in the mix, sometimes it is a bit of an overload sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be doom and gloom, because it's not doom and gloom, but we've got to be real about it and authentic about it.
And
How
honest
it
with
can affect you.
ourselves.
Yes.
Because I